Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video. And in this video, I want to talk to you about 5 hard truths about codependency. So I find that a lot of people, when they initially hear this sort of idea or concept of what codependency is, often feel like, oh, what if this is a good thing? And I really want to dispel the myths around this and just give some insight into what a codependent relationship really looks like. So you can think of codependency as being basically this concept or idea that like our identities merge, where I meet all of your needs, you meet all of mine, we really don't meet our own. And rather than having interdependency, where there's a healthy exchange of energy of giving and receiving, and rather than having the ability to really take accountability and ownership and communicate our needs and have boundaries when necessary, there is a merging. There's a total absence of boundaries. There's a total absence of, communication a lot of the times, these sorts of things. So, there's a whole bunch more to say about codependency. We do have a course if you want to break through codependency, remove the subconscious programs that cause codependency, the belief patterns, the belief, things like I'm responsible for how other people feel. I'm responsible for how other people act. We can do some reprogramming and work around those things. We can change our subconscious comfort zone around these patterns. You can check a course out for free called Overcoming Codependency and Enmeshment in PDS for 7 days by clicking the link in the description box below. But I want to go through like 5 major myths. We have other videos too about codependency on this channel, but I really want to go through 5 major myths about, codependency being a good thing, a nice thing, a sweet thing, and what the reality actually is. So number 1 is being too agreeable or boundaryless is not attractive. And I'm not saying this in like a judgmental way at all. I am talking specifically in a factual way, from a biological perspective. So when we are getting to know somebody, we value trait variety. We are subconsciously attracted to people expressing different traits than us. It develops a sense of wholeness, equilibrium when we attach to somebody at the subconscious level. It also, from a trait variety perspective, makes us feel that we're going to be safe, survive. It's part of what attraction is based off of. And so when we get into a position where we try to be too much like the other person, we actually lose this sense of attractiveness, and we don't have a sense of self, and we don't say no for things that are no for us because we have a difference of opinion or ideas. When we don't express different beliefs, have different boundaries, have different needs, and communicate about them, when we don't show up to have a sense of self, it is actually subconsciously not attractive to the other person. And this is why you'll see a lot of people who are extremely agreeable in the dating stage of a relationship often get into a position where they can have the best things ever going for them. They can be, all the great things we would want on paper, but they find themselves constantly sort of defeated by the process of dating, where they're like, well, I show up really well. I've worked really hard on myself. I've got these, I've got a good education or background, or I'm really caring, or I've got these great traits, or I put myself together, or whatever it is. And yet they keep seeing this pattern of like somebody leaving early on into the dating stage and not really making it even into the honeymoon stage of a relationship. So much of it often has to do with this. So it's really important to know. Number 2 hard myth here is being agreeable and boundaryless does not equal harmony. We often think when we get into a position where it's like, oh, I'll just say whatever you want me to say yes to, and I'll just do whatever this other person wants all the time. We think that that's going to be like an easy way out, a more frictionless thing that creates harmony. It only ever creates resentment long term. And the reason for this is because when we get into a situation, and this brings me to hard myth number 3, we are not supposed to just meet all of each other's needs. That's what leads to expectations and resentment. Nobody is a mind reader at the end of the day. This can also be a hard truth, but nobody's a mind reader. So when we get into codependent relationships and we think like being agreeable is just going to create harmony, we'll just meet all of each other's needs. It's just not how it works. When we spend so much time focused on the other person's needs, we exclude our own as a byproduct. And here's what happens. I see this all the time in codependent relationships. Let's say it's Bob and Mary. And let's say Mary is like, oh, I'm just going to meet all of Bob's needs. I'm just going to go along with whatever Bob wants. Eventually, when Bob makes a mistake in the relationship, like forgets to call Mary back when he says he will, or forgets to, show up early for something she asked him to come early for, whatever it might be, Barry's going to freak out because she's going to be feeling like, oh my gosh, I just abandoned myself for you. I'm totally giving up on my needs, my dreams, my values, the things that are important to me to go along with what you want from me. And then you can't even do these little small things. And this is where I see resentment become like extremely poisonous, like really insidious. It really has this massive impact on relationships. So being agreeable and boundaryless creates long-term resentment, not harmony. And we're not supposed to just meet all of each other's needs. We're supposed to meet some of our own needs, have a healthy, stable sense of self in relationships where we can rely on ourselves and request our needs from other people too. And so when we request and somebody's not available for something, it doesn't feel like the world is ending. We don't feel panicked or helpless. We feel like, oh, that's okay. They're not available for this need right now. I can go meet it instead. And having that ability to access relationship to self and relationship to others and have that sort of balance between the two is really powerful for a relationship to thrive long term. So we have so far being agreeable is not attractive. Being agreeable does not equal harmony, or being boundaryless, these same things. We're not supposed to just meet all of each other's needs. Now we also have, you cannot control another person's life and feelings no matter what. And listen, we can give advice to people, we can share ideas, we can give feedback, we can give healthy, constructive criticism, we can do all sorts of things. Somebody takes it or they don't. Somebody uses the tools or they don't. Somebody does the work on themselves or they don't. And I mean, like, let's say you're trying to share to a partner, right? And you're like, oh, let's try this, let's do this, or here, I learned this tool, take this tool. They pick it up or they don't. And really that's about them. It's about their programming, their belief patterns, their subconscious needs, what's going on inside of them in terms of their fears. It has so much to do with just their internal programming. And when we put pressure on ourselves as an individual in a romantic relationship, especially, to be accountable for somebody else's feelings, somebody else's wounds, somebody else's decisions or life, we will always come to feel helpless as a byproduct long term. And that will always create disruptions in the relationship, because when we feel helpless, what do? We become controlling a lot of the time, or we withdraw, or we become spiteful, or whatever it might be. And so these dynamics do not work long term as much as we would like to think that they do. In for some really, really hard truths if you don't have that recognition and sort of peel back the layers of your own codependent behavior if this is something that you struggle with. And again, you can check out that course for free for 7 days. It will help you reprogram codependent behaviors at the subconscious level, which is where we need real change to happen. So you can have like thriving, lasting, loving, empowered, connected relationships where you feel strong and stable and like you have a sense of self and really connected to the other person at the same time. It's called healthy interdependence, and that's what we want. And number 5, codependent relationships always fail. And I know nobody wants to hear that. Failing does not mean that you stick around. I've seen people stick around in codependent relationships for decades. It does not mean that the relationship is doing well. Failing means there are more unhappy moments than happy moments, in my opinion. And the relationship is actually taking a toll in many different ways, even if it's getting some needs met at the survival level, safety level, or we're avoiding the fears of our wounds, we're avoiding the fear of being abandoned or alone. If we are unhappy the vast majority of the time, if there's suffering, if we're not working through things and we're not solving problems, we're not growing together, we're not bonding and overcoming challenges that arise, if instead that's just creating more resentment, more toxicity, more frustration, usually it's a trajectory towards failing, even if it's like an extended failure where it's like, you're not leaving, you're sticking together. To me, what's the purpose of relationships? It's to have happiness. It's to have joy. It's to feel like there's a sense of connectedness at a deep level, to feel like we're resentment free with people we love and spend time with in our lives. And so when we've got a lot of heaviness and pain and suffering and unhealthy patterns arising and we're not getting to the bottom of it or able to resolve it, to me, that unhappiness is a sign that there's failure in this situation. Now, don't get me wrong. We can learn from failure. We can grow from it. We can change it. We can do all sorts of things. But this is the hard truths video. So I wanted to be really blunt and direct. At the end of the day, if you're unhappy, that's telling you something. It's probably time to listen, especially if you're putting the work in as an individual, or both of you are putting the work in a relationship. You're not seeing transformation potentially because you're not targeting these codependent patterns to begin with. So hopefully this all makes a lot of sense. I feel like this is maybe a bit of a doomsday video, but people ask for hard truth videos, so we're putting them out here. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.